So, in recent weeks in the UK, we have had a growing controversy over pay at the BBC, and particularly from the perspective of the gender pay gap. That is to say that there is a discrepancy between what the top male presenters and stars are paid versus what the top female presenters, stars are paid. Um, this has been provoking quite a lot of debate in recent weeks, so I thought it was about time I said something about it. Um, my instinct on this is basically one of thinking that these people in general get a huge amount of money. Now, there is apparently quite a discrepancy between what, for example, someone like Gary Lineker or Graham Norton is paid compared to um, some female presenters such as Fiona Bruce or others. Um, I think that salary is something that it can provoke a lot of social arguments over who deserves what. It can be a very contentious issue, actually. And at a time when people in frontline services, nurses, police officers, and so on, are facing real pressures, I think that a lot of people in the public are going to look at this from a cynical light. On the practical side of things, the fact of the matter is most BBC presenters get far more than the Prime Minister. Now, why am I mentioning that? We have a strange thing in this country that people seem to be really pay a lot of focus on the salaries of politicians. Actually, politicians are nowhere near the sort of levels that, for example, footballers, TV presenters, and media executives get, or top financiers, bankers, and so on. Not even close. To put things in context, the Prime Minister makes, as I understand it, £149,440. This was publicised before the salaries of these top presenters was publicised. £149,440. Now, that's obviously a very comfortable amount of money. But when you consider the responsibility she is the leader of a nation of 65 million people. She has access to a nuclear button. She and her government make decisions that impact millions of lives. That is an enormous amount of responsibility, far more responsibility than a TV presenter. Now, I would argue that news presenters have a lot of responsibility, but I don't think they should be paid more than the Prime Minister. So I think it's useful to point that out just for a comparison. She gets £149,000. I personally think that's either about right, or I would actually suggest it should be a bit more. I mean, for goodness sake, she's the Prime Minister. And it isn't about Theresa May, it's about whoever is in that office. If you think the Prime Minister, whatever you think of their politics, the responsibility factor is what earns the money, and that it should be. Cabinet ministers get close to that, £134,000. It varies from junior ministers to senior ministers. MPs, I believe it's now 72,000. Some might say that's too high. I think it's probably slightly on the high side. I would reduce it a little bit, but I don't think that MPs should be on, for example, 20,000, because again, they have a lot of responsibility. And the point about politicians, and this is something that people hugely overlook, they are under more personal scrutiny than any other profession. Okay, actors and actresses, sports people may get criticised, but that's criticism based on either the roles that they're doing or their performance on a football pitch. It's not criticism of decisions that are actually impacting other people, not in the same way. So, from the point of view of the pressure that politicians face, I do believe they should get a reasonable salary. I don't know why people get so worked up about what MPs get. It really isn't vast amounts of money. It's very comfortable, and I can certainly understand the controversy, for example, when you're talking about frontline services. I mean, nurses do fantastic work. They're often working under a lot of pressure. My mother was a nurse for many years. I have enormous respect for the work they do. Soldiers, literally risk life and limb. Police officers, again, very pressurizing and often dangerous work. All these people, in my view, should be paid significantly more. And there's other examples. So all of this then comes into the spectrum of who gets what, what's deserved. I don't actually like probing into other people's salary because I think it can lead to a sort of jealous society where people then start getting petty and saying, and basically just leads to jealousy. So I don't think that's good in itself. However, I do feel that people who are in a comfortable position should be very careful about making their grievances public. So this whole BBC pay issue has come about presumably because the female presenters are not happy about it. In fact, that is the case. It's just been reported, and they're up in arms about it. What I would say to those women, with the greatest respect, okay, if there is a discrepancy in the gender issue, that probably needs to be addressed. But you yourselves are on very comfortable salaries. You're seeing far more money than most women in this country will see. You're seeing far more money than most people in this country will see. You're in a very comfortable position. And I do take the view that if someone is earning a lot of money, they should be very careful about whinging about it. So, okay, talk to the bosses, whoever pays the salary, talk to the agents, but I don't think this should be. I think there should be a public debate around how we perceive salary, but not on I just can't feel sorry for people who are already rich complaining about their salary. I just think it's a really phony and insulting sort of point that they're making. And what I would say to these presenters is, can you not understand how this comes across? You're already a very rich person and you're complaining about it. Now, there are some people in the BBC I think should get a lot of money. I think frontline journalists like Ora Guerin and Jeremy Bowen deserve every penny they get because they do risk their lives. Journalists do die in war zones. So, I would suggest they should be paid a lot more than certain so called comedians, but that's my own opinion. Um, do we want to be a society where everyone becomes kind of like a nosy neighbor and says, oh, what's this person making? What's that person making? I don't think it's particularly good to go down that direction. But by the same token, so long as this debate is going on, I believe that it is legitimate for members of the public to then turn around and say, well, wait a second, you're complaining about this. What the hell gives you a right to complain? You're in you have a very comfortable life. Okay, you're a public figure. I'm not suggesting they don't work hard, but I think if you make a lot of money, don't complain. Simple as that. Or at least don't complain publicly. If you feel that it's not fair that your male co-star is getting more, bring that up to studio bosses or whatever. But I just think that there's this, they, it just sends out the wrong narrative. And I can't be the only person. In fact, I know I'm not the only person to feel that way. Um, so I really think they need to get into the real world and understand that at a time when many people are still struggling, we haven't come out of the austerity era. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people in frontline services are struggling, and they work very hard. Um, I just think that presenters, male or female, should be very careful, think twice about complaining about it. I feel the same way when these issues come up in the acting industry, when actors whinge about not getting exactly the roles they want, and there's all these politically correct debates around diversity and so on. Again, if you are in a privileged position, i.e., if you're being paid a lot of money for what you do, just think very carefully about complaining publicly. I just can't have any sympathy for celebrities who think that they're already rich, they should get more. If that's really what they believe, then you know, bring it up privately. But when you choose to make something public, don't be surprised if the public turns around and judges you for it. So what I would say is, in terms of this pay issue, I don't know entirely how this works. As I understand it, a lot of it is to do with how agents negotiate over how much their client is worth, i.e., the marketability. And you find this in any in other walks of life. I mean, you often have prize fights in the world of boxing. Well, one fighter makes a lot more than the other. Now, on the surface, it looks unfair. And you could argue it is unfair, but if you have a fighter who's been in the limelight for years, he's a huge box office draw, someone like Floyd Mayweather, the chances are he's going to be paid a lot more than his opponent. On the surface, that looks unfair, because both men are in the ring, both men are taking risks. But the point is, Mayweather is the star. He is the one that is bringing in people to the seats. So I think it's probably the same with anything in terms of TV marketability. If you have a star who is very popular, whose show gets huge ratings, then you can argue from a business perspective they are earning the money that they get because they are bringing in the viewers. Um, so there's a lot of angles to take with this, but I would really emphasize that point. I don't think these. I mean, to be honest, I feel a little bit. Well, it's not jealousy. I really don't feel jealous because I don't want to be in that position. I don't want that sort of scrutiny, but I do feel a little resentful, if I'm being completely honest, not of the money that they have, but of the fact that they are apparently not grateful for it at a time when many people are struggling. I know what it's like to have financial anxiety. And I just think that if you have a lot of money, if you're in a comfortable position, don't take it for granted. Certainly not publicly. Let me know your thoughts and thanks for watching.